The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
The Denver Broncos clipped the wings of the Philadelphia Eagles in a stunner on the road here in Week 5. We'll break down the Broncos' big-time victory here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast.
What a game, what a victory, what a whirlwind of emotions here. It really felt like when the Broncos were down 17-3, and how the offense was playing and how the defense was playing for a good portion of this game, I think it was easy for us to just sit back there. I know I was guilty of it myself to say, we haven't seen this team claw their way out of a deficit like this. We haven't seen them compete like this in this situation. Wow, did they prove us wrong in the fourth quarter?
Cody, I just gotta applaud. I mean, this is everything that we have asked for from top to bottom, right? We're talking about winning a close game against a great team. We're talking about Bo Nix having a signature moment against a great team. Sean Payton calling the game of his life. I mean, Evan Ingram stepping up in this game. Courtland Sutton making clutch plays against a guy who has barely given up anything this entire season. I mean, we run down the list of things that needed to go right in order to win this game. I bet you if we pull up our keys to victory here in this game, Cody, every single one of them was pretty much hit in this game because the Broncos, I think a lot of folks want to say you have 12 penalties in the game. It's not a pretty win. Cody, this is the prettiest win I can remember seeing in a long time because the Denver Broncos, you didn't just go boat race some team. You went into the Philadelphia Eagles house and you kicked them out and you sat on their couch and you kicked your shoes off wherever you want to, not even at the front door. You kicked your own shoes off wherever you want and you put your foot up on their, their coffee table or whatever, and you took the remote away from the owner of the house and you said, screw you, this is my TV now. And you did the thing you did what the Eagles do to everybody else against the Philadelphia Eagles at their own house. Like, dude, I'm fired up about this type win right now because I'm with you. I'm sitting there at 17-3 in this game, and I'm saying to myself, man, this is the same bull crap that we've seen. We saw this we saw the same story against the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. We saw this against the Baltimore Ravens last year, right? We've seen this story before. And even if the Broncos do make noise, well, we've seen them pee too many of these leads down their leg, or we've seen them ruin it in the fourth quarter with a play or two. This is the signature moment, in my opinion, for Sean Payton and Bo Nix.
I love the analogy you made about someone just coming to your house, making sandwiches, kicking their feet up. It's like Bruh Man from the Fifth Floor. If you ever saw the TV show Martin, Bruh Man was always coming. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, making a sandwich. That's what the Broncos did in the fourth quarter against this Philadelphia Eagles team. And look, it was, Sarah, being honest, we were having some tweets. I'm probably going to be a candidate for freezing cold takes exposed because at one point during the game, I called the offense Hackett-esque. It really felt like that. They couldn't get anything going, and it was because of negative plays, right? And it started with, Bo Nix overthrowing Trent Sherfield on one play, then getting sacked for 13 yards, and then it just led to a negative snowball to Denver's defense. But I'll say this, Bo Nix showed moxie, to go into halftime, throwing 10 of 21 for 79 yards. It was rough. And then the Broncos, they come out and they allow a score to open up the third quarter. You're down 17-3. Bo Nix in the second half was 14 of 18 passing to finish the game, over 160-something yards and a touchdown. But what was impressive in the fourth quarter when it mattered most, he was 9 of 10 passing, and 4 of those passes went to Courtland Sutton, 4 catches for 76 yards in the fourth for Sutton. This was big-time football. This was Bo Nix shaking off that rough start, saying it's not about how you start, it's about how you finished. I was impressed with his poise and his moxie. Not only did he do a great job, but my goodness, we saw different catalysts contributing to this, starting with J.K. Dobbins, who I always like the death by 1,000 paper cuts analogy, right? And maybe this is just because I'm an Oregon Ducks fan, and we just saw Dan Lanning do this against Penn State. But J.K. Dobbins had some runs throughout that game, even with Denver trailing. It was like, all right, that's a cut. That's a cut. Now, eventually you're going to cut, and it's going to cut deep. And then everything else opened up here for the Broncos. Dobbins punches it in, cuts the deficit 17-10, has a couple of runs, has a catch that moves the chains a little bit. And then I already mentioned Courtland Sutton, big second half for him. But my goodness, Sarah, we finally saw Evan Ingram break out and be used in the way in which we said, hey, where has this been all year? This was a great confidence booster, I feel like, for Evan. What a game from Sean Payton here after I called him out on Twitter. And I said, the offense is abysmal. It's ugly. Defenses don't respect it. Wow. Ate a lot of crow in that fourth quarter. Through 3 quarters of play, it was brutal, and they found a way to shake it off. That's impressive. That's hard to do.
It is. I'm really glad you made the death by 1,000 paper cuts analogy there, Cody, because that was a Vic Fangio thing. And it's ironic that the Broncos were able to come into Vic Fangio's house, one of the most dominating defenses in the league, and you're able to beat these guys at their own game. I mean, I just absolutely love every aspect of it, and great call out as well on Sean Payton coaching the best game that we've seen from him, because in order to pull a team out of a hole like that, you have to have a great head coach. You have to have somebody who knows what he's doing, game management, a staff full of people that know what they're doing, and you can't give up. Like when you're down 17-3, it's easy for teams to just be like, all right, you know what? Like these guys are killing us. Like there's nothing we can do about it at this point. And then you have that one drive, like you said, where J.K. Dobbins really gets things going. He caps it off with the touchdown run. And then you have the point in the game where the defense puts the ball back in Bo Nix's hands. And how many times this season or last season did we see Bo Nix get the ball in a similar situation and the offense either go 3 and out, or, you know, it just wasn't there. It wasn't there for them, or they had a decent drive going and they got pushed back into field goal range and they had to settle for 3. Like, no, you're down by 7 on the road against a Vic Fangio defense, against a team that's won 20 straight games. And you didn't just get you didn't just put points on the board. You didn't just put even 6 points on the board. You put 8 points on the board when you're down by 7 in the fourth quarter of a game like that. I mean, this is exactly what we've needed to see from Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos offense. They delivered in the clutch moments, like you mentioned, and I can't help but feel amazing about it.
Well, and the time of possession battle too late down the stretch, that was key here, Sarah. The Broncos' final 3 possessions that were scoring drives, 10 plays, 64 yards. It took 4:27 off the game clock. The one where Evan Ingram caught the touchdown pass, Troy Franklin caught the 2-point conversion, 6 plays, 72 yards. 3 minutes and 32 seconds taken off. And then that last one, which obviously ended in Will Lutz kicking the field goal to make it 21-17, 11 plays, 50 yards, 3:49 taken off the clock. I thought, obviously, you know, the factoring in the timeout situation there from Philadelphia, that if they didn't have timeouts, that number would have been bigger. Denver took control in moments where I think you and I think everyone in Broncos country as well, I think has been skeptical. It's like, can they do it? They showed us that they can do it. This right here, that close game narrative, it finally comes to a screeching halt here, right? And obviously shake off the 2 losses you had early on in the season. This is the biggest win of Sean Payton and Bo Nix's career so far. Look, Sean Payton's win against Buffalo Monday Night Football, I felt like that was the biggest win so far. But then now I think we look to where he's at now. This is by far the biggest statement win, because 3-2 feels a whole lot better than 2-3.
100%. I mean, going into this game against the Jets, I was having conversations with other people too, saying like, look, we kind of penciled this game in as a loss. When we were talking about the schedule release, when we're making our season predictions, we're going game by game. You look at this game in Philadelphia and you're kind of just like okay with it. You're kind of just okay with saying, hey, pencil that one in as a loss. You'll figure out a way to 11 or 12 wins some other way. But then obviously game week comes and the optimism is flowing, and you know the team's 2-2. You lost a couple of games that you probably should have found a way to win, and now it just feels like it means a little bit more. I'm so grateful that the Broncos came into this and had no sort of give up mentality whatsoever. Like myself, you said it. I said it. I was texting people. I didn't put anything on Twitter because Twitter is a scary place to be during a football game. But even my text messages, even my direct messages on Slack are a scary place to be during the game. And you're just kind of saying like, you know what? You lose on the road to an NFC team. Big deal. The Broncos are sitting there like, hey, no, we got a little something up our sleeve here. And it's not like they saved the best for last, Cody. They just found a way to fight back. That's what I love. This wasn't like a Tebow game. This was a find a way to fight back game. And the Broncos, this is a turning point for them big time.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in on the action live as it unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Chiefs are going to look to take over the AFC West, or at least maintain their edge against them as they get ready for Monday Night Football, with the AFC West having played today and a new development with Xavier Worthy today.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Xavier Worthy has had an update. He has been moved due to a shoulder/ankle, which doesn't sound like it's the same injury in any way, shape, or form. He's now listed as questionable for Monday Night Football. Took me totally by surprise. I saw him on Rich Eisen on Friday. He looked absolutely fine. So there must have been something new develop. I don't know what to make of it off the top, especially with them being on totally different appendages. What's your takeaway?
Chiefs offense is in trouble if Worthy can't play. So they absolutely need him to play. But the issue is we don't know high ankle sprain, low ankle sprain, what type of issue it is with the ankle. We knew the shoulder injury. That's not a surprise. But the ankle issue is definitely something to be concerned about headed into a game.
I'm seeing speculation. I don't have this from any of the sources that I truly trust, but I understand the travel portion is what kind of spurred some of this on, some swelling in the lower body coming off of the plane. Okay, that does happen, especially given, the fact that this was your first real action last week, and now you're on a plane, traveling, etc. We're going to see. I don't know that it rules him out, and they haven't said that. Questionable does not mean doubtful. It means it's a possibility, but not a strong, over 50%. If they had gone right to doubtful, I would be more concerned. But I'm leaning towards, especially the toughness this kid has showed just coming back from this injury initially. I'm guessing, I still feel right now sitting here positive that he'll play.
You feel better about it than I do, because I look at this and going, they're putting him on the injury report. And generally speaking, when you get put on the injury report the day before the game, you're probably not playing that game. Generally speaking, that's not always the case. We'll see if that ends up being something that happens. But the bigger question to me is what happened, because I understand that maybe you get a little bit of swelling on the plane ride, but it sounds like the ankle was an issue before, which I didn't even realize he had an ankle issue. So a little interesting there.
Yeah, and we are seeing your chats, folks. Maybe we'll have some time at the end for questions. Come back with us there. We don't know what Worthy did. We just got this news within the last half an hour before we started this live stream. And so much so I didn't even change the title of this stream. So welcome in, folks. We are talking about matchups. And the reason we preempt everything else is because Xavier was one of our prime matchups, one of the playmakers that we had to see perform in this ball game. Without him, it falls very much to a guy that has been on a roll. If Xavier cannot go, it's Tyquan Thornton's job. They still have to stretch the field. They still have to make them pay over the top. This secondary's been playing pretty good, but I feel they can still get got with speed, and I think that that's the way that they have to go. And Tyquan's put up a touchdown in each of the last 3 games.
Yep. Yeah, and I think Tyquan has shown that he can do more than what he did when he was a Patriot, and he's obviously moving in the right direction for the Chiefs. The one thing that I will say that I feel better about this than I would have a couple of weeks ago is they have Jalen Royals, who should be able to play, and that should help. Whether or not, I mean, I'm not expecting that it's going to replace Worthy. Obviously, you can't do that, but having another guy that can go out there and produce, and I do think he can produce in this offense, would be helpful.
Yeah.
The bigger question, but the bigger question is, how much of the game plan did they have just for Xavier Worthy? Because they did that week 1, and he goes out in 3 plays.
And poof. Yeah, and as much as I like what Tyquan's done in stepping up and performing the long ball and putting that pressure on the defense, all the other stuff, especially anything that is an option route, is not Tyquan's story. He cannot do that. There is no replacing Xavier unless Rasheed walks back in the door, and we know that's not going to happen. So it does narrow your possibilities. So that means Travis has to step up. It means the running backs have to step up. I hope that it means that there's enough in the game plan for Brashard Smith that you can lean on it a little bit more and give it more options, which I think is good for Brashard Smith in particular in getting those runs. So we'll see what comes of it. we also have to pay attention to the fact that because we're live on a Sunday, it's not just a normal preview. We have more intel on the rest of the AFC West. And late breaking news just within the last few minutes is, stop me if you've heard this before, the Chargers are getting hurt again. Marin Hampton in a walking boot. That significantly changes the outlook for the Chargers going down the stretch. For all of you who are tired of hearing every media member in the world pick the Chargers every year, well, guess what? Every year they get hurt to the point that they can't compete, and it looks like it's starting to happen to them yet again.
Yeah, and they already lost Joe Alt for a little bit. They already lost their starting left tackle in Rashawn Slater for the entire season, and now you're losing. You lost another running back already, Najee Harris, and now you're losing Marion Hampton. There goes my fantasy league, but who cares? And they've lost 2 in a row at this point. They were 3-0. Now they're 3-2, and Kansas City finds a way to win against the Jaguars. They are tied for first place, technically tied for first place because they will have lost to the Chargers. But the Denver Broncos are also 3-2.
They are, and the Broncos survived and beat an Eagles team this team couldn't beat. Didn't look pretty, but they did get it done.
A lot of questionable calls.
Yeah, a lot of questionable calls. Up and down performance from Bo. Really had Sutton and not a whole lot else. But that pass rush is real, and they got after it a little bit as well. So that's something to keep an eye on.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in on the action live as it unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Intrigued is the best way to describe Dillon Gabriel's first start for the Cleveland Browns. We'll react to it coming up on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast.
Cleveland falling to 1-4 on the season with a 21-17 loss to the Minnesota Vikings. And there's a lot to dissect here because it was a frustrating loss, I think, in general, and on a day where the offense, the Kevin Stefanski got the desired result in making this quarterback change. He wanted to change things up to see if he could get a spark for his offense. I think for most of that game today, it worked. 3 scoring drives. They were in this thing till the end. There's probably a couple drives they want back to try to punch in or try to get points on the board. The fourth quarter fumble from the Vikings that led to them not getting any points. You win the turnover battle. The percentages say you should win the game, but they didn't get it done. But what I will say is this: if you were wondering what Dillon Gabriel was going to look like in the NFL, if you were wondering what this game was going to look like, his first start, all these different things, I think that you should come away feeling intrigued at the very least by what he showed you today on the football field. I thought he was pretty poised overall in running the offense. Seemed like he had a good grasp of what they were trying to accomplish. And I think there's reason to feel like there's a future for him in the NFL. Maybe that's as the Browns starter. Maybe that's as a primary bat. Who knows? There's the options are sort of endless there. We're not going to be able to decipher, firmly what his role is going to be in the NFL for years to come. But as Kevin Stefanski made the switch looking to have the offense produce some better results, I think he got those better results today. There was no turnovers. He protected the football. He made some really nice throws at times. I think his best throw of the day was on that last drive before the half where he layered a perfect pass to David Njoku for 17 yards down the sideline on sort of a smash concept. That set up a field goal right before the break to put the Browns up 10-7 going into the half. They hadn't led at the half all season. They finally had a lead going into the half. That's not for nothing. He was, like I said, poised. He managed things pretty well. I think Kevin Stefanski did a nice job of being conservative to an extent in making sure that Dillon could be comfortable as the quarterback of this team and executing the offense. We'll talk about later on how I think that came back to bite Kevin Stefanski a little bit. But at the same time, there was a lot to like in Dillon Gabriel's performance today. Was it perfect? No. And I don't know that anybody expected or should have expected a rookie quarterback's debut to be perfect. It's asking a lot. And I honestly, it's rare that anything in football is perfect. There's always things that go wrong, or blocks that are missed, or plays that aren't made that could have turned a game on its head, or turned a game in your favor. So it's not that I thought he was going to be perfect or that he should be perfect. I don't think anybody should have had that expectation. But 19 to 33, a 57.6 completion percentage, not great, but 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. That's, in Kevin Stefanski's offense, that can win. That can win you football games. And it almost won them the football game today. I don't know that, you're not going to be writing headlines about how Dillon Gabriel's the franchise quarterback, but should fans feel, even in defeat, even in a loss, intrigued to see more, or hungry for more, to see what Dillon Gabriel can do as he gets even more comfortable, even more acclimated to the NFL level? Absolutely. Absolutely they should. I think that has to be easily one of the biggest takeaways from this game today, is just how he performed despite the circumstances, how everything sort of came together for him. And he managed a solid offense that was better than what we've seen to this point. Like, if you were looking for competent NFL football on that side of the ball, I think you got that today. Did they come up short a few times? Yes. But I thought Dillon showed some signs of hope that there's something in there. And I don't know, I talked about it on Friday, the idea that if the Browns decide ultimately that they're going to roll with Dillon next year after he starts for however many games this season, that they will have to be judged. Stefanski and company will have to be judged on hitching themselves to that wagon of him as a quarterback, and that being the guy that they're sort of banking on leading them into the future. Right now, we don't have to answer that question, or they don't have to answer that question. It's just kind of an evaluation period for him. But I think he at least passed his first test, even in the loss. And if there's a silver lining in this, it is that, hey, listen, he showed you something, and there's room to be excited about what he could maybe bring to the table here. And if the Browns do decide to go the route of maybe banking on Dillon being the guy in the future, it'll probably be because he only gets better from here, and that's obviously good news. So there's a lot to like, certainly some things to not like. I also think too, though, you saw the reason Kevin Stefanski made this change, and then he spent the better part of the week talking about the change and saying how it's about all of us, and it's not just one person, and we all need to be better. I need to be better. The offensive line needs to be better. The receivers need to be better. He didn't say those groups specifically, but you knew what he meant. He was talking about the offense being all encompassing, and that a quarterback change wasn't going to fix everything. I also think as they lose this game, you saw some of those same reasons why they are a 1-4 football team, and why it wasn't going to be just all be fixed because of Dillon Gabriel. There was some Jerry Jeudy with another costly drop on third down in this football game. Not great. That continues to be an issue. Gabriel, put the ball in a spot where he should catch it. I guarantee you Jerry Jeudy would say he should have caught that pass. He continues to have issues with that. It was something that plagued him early in his career. We thought he got it out of his system with his great year last year in Cleveland. Not the case, apparently. And so there's just been a monicum of issues with the receiving core. They're not very talented at the receiver position right now, aside from Jerry Jeudy. And now he's your top guy's letting you down. So that's not very good. The offensive line, while I thought they were better overall today, especially in protecting Dillon Gabriel in this passing attack, and part of that too was Gabriel was able to protect himself better than Joe Flacco could, because he can move around a little bit more. They did get him rolling out a little bit, which was good to see. At that same time, though, the offensive line, while better, still in some key spots, give up a sack on Gabriel, or he got some pressure in his face and he couldn't complete a pass. So there's still some issues that aren't going to just get fixed overnight. Penalties were a problem today. Cam Robinson, who just got here this week, he was kind of rotating with KT Levinston, and he got back-to-back penalties, a false start, and then he was considered illegal formation because he was too far back. You're not allowed to feather so far back anymore these days. They're cracking down on that in the NFL. So that was an issue. So there were still things that didn't go right for this offense beyond just the quarterback position, but certainly there were some things that did go right and that gave you some signs of hope, and that should make you feel good about, if Gabriel continues to get better, what he can be at the NFL level. And so again, intriguing, I think, is the right word. And you're going to see that intrigue maybe pay off here or what it looks like as the future continues, because he's your starting quarterback moving forward. Again, it wasn't perfect. He was through a lot of, he sailed a lot of passes. Some of that, I feel like, and here's another point. I think like a lot of the things that didn't go well for Gabriel today are largely correctable. It's, misfires, balls too high, getting on the same page with receivers in certain instances. Those things can correct themselves. And so we'll see how this 13 games that remain and how long Gabriel's part of it plays out. And if he's able to kind of just improve on those things. But listen, intriguing, I think, is the right word, because Gabriel showed you something, I think, today that should make you feel good about him and the state of this offense moving forward. A really, really strong game plan from Kevin Stefanski for about 3.5 quarters today, maybe a little bit more than that. Really, like 56 minutes of this game. I thought Kevin was calling a perfect game plan, especially when you're starting a rookie quarterback. He leaned on the run game heavily, which I don't have an issue with. It worked well. Quinshawn, 23 for 123 carries, 110 yards, 4.8 yards per carry. He became the first Browns player in franchise history, by the way, to average 70 or more, or have 70 or more yards from scrimmage in their first 4 career games that they played. No Browns players ever done that. Nick Chubb didn't do it, mostly because in his first 4 career games, Hugh Jackson was too afraid to put him out there on the field, and he was kind of a backup, but I digress. Jim Brown never did it. No player ever has done that in Browns history. So that speaks to how great Quinshawn Judkins is. And let's face it, like, part of the reason Gabriel, not part of the reason, but the run game being as effective as it was today was another piece of the puzzle as to why I think Gabriel was able to be poised. It took some pressure off of him that they could move the football effectively with the ground game, that they were able to, get chunk plays, stay ahead of the sticks, that Quinshawn was so good. He was breaking off some bigger runs today. And you could see, like, it felt like one of those Nick Chubb performances where as the game went on, he was just the bruises and the hits that he was putting on the defense. Like, you felt like he was so close to breaking a big one for a touchdown. He just kept kind of gaining momentum. And that's really been the story for him these first couple weeks that he's played. He just has gained momentum. He's looked better and better and better each and every single week. And it's culminated now in him being this workhorse back and sparking the Browns offense in a really, really meaningful way, just in general. It's been great to see. And I think that is another bright spot that comes out of a loss today. People are probably wondering, like, why I probably seem very positive in general after a tough loss. And I get it. Like, it was a gut-wrenching one for fans. I get it. But I think there was a lot to like in this game. And we'll get to some of the disappointment, I think, in the third segment, specifically when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. And also right now, because I think as much as I thought Quinshawn was great and the run game was a weapon for the Browns today, I did think in those closing minutes, Kevin Stefanski's conservativeness ultimately sort of cost the Browns here. He came out of that in that next series. And listen, when you have a limited offense, you're not necessarily going to go for the gusto and try to just like win the game immediately. But they had 3:27 on the clock when they touched the ball. Their last possession, obviously the last possession really came in the final 25 seconds or whatever the hell it was. But their last real meaningful possession when they you had the football with plenty of time came with 3:27 to go in the fourth quarter. They punted the ball 22 seconds later because they could not execute to pick up the first down. And like, to me, that sort of told the story of the game.